I wanted to pull up this particular story, which has been kind of doing the rounds lately. Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly got engaged and drank each other's blood. I wonder what your thoughts are on that. Of course, Megan Fox, I mean, she's an actress, and I mean, I think it's politically correct to say actor now, and Machine Gun Kelly is this musician. Neither of whom are, as far as I know, I haven't avidly followed them by any means, but as far as I know, they're not really brilliant at their craft per se. So some have said, this is a kind of publicity stunt. I'm sure that there's an element of that. What immediately came to my mind, rightly or wrongly, is the sort of occult nature, the sort of occult implications behind drinking blood. Of course, famously, Christianity reorients humanity, right? Historically, blood sacrifices have been an ancient form of appeasing the gods and what have you, and Christianity seeks to change that once and for all, as it were. And we don't necessarily have to go into the theology of that per se, or we could. But maybe you could start by saying a little bit about your reactions to this strange story, and telling me, of course, a lot of people in the media reacted just by saying something along the lines of how gross. And I think it's gross, but I think there's something potentially deeper going on. We don't know for sure, of course.
Well, again, Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox, they are celebrities.
Yes.
And as you know, celebrity culture is built a lot around getting publicity, and this undoubtedly, like satanic rock music, for instance, is often motivated very much by getting publicity. Megan Fox is an attractive woman. She's not a great actress. Machine Gun Kelly is a young guy who's also trying to become more and more famous and sell his work. So I think you're right in suspecting, I don't know the inside story, but I think you're right in suspecting that their motivation is probably largely publicity. But as you imply in your observation here, it's treading on, let's say, customs that do have darker roots and historical roots as well. And there is a certain amount of, I can speak to this issue without knowing their specific motivation. There is a flavor of occultism in what they're doing, whether they're aware of it or not. There's a little bit when, I think Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton, if I have his name right. I think they did something similar with blood when they were married for a short-lived time. So it's a little bit in the Hollywood culture, this flirtation with rituals, including espousal pledges. That is a little disturbing to a lot of people. The problem is it's too little disturbing to some other people, and then that this has almost become a mainstream manifestation of a kind of neo-paganism. And there is no question that there is a recrudescence of neo-paganism in modern societies. And sometimes it's kind of, ludicrous and frivolous. And other times there's a darker side to it. There was American survey organization called the Pew Research People, who said that recently, it's a recent poll, like 1.5 million Americans had some serious involvement in witchcraft, which is staggering. Now, again, some of that is sort of dabbling at a superficial level, I'm sure, but there are serious neo-Wiccan and witchcraft beliefs that are reflective of a kind of reemergence of pagan occultism. In my book, I sort of highlight a case of a woman who was a actual devil-worshipping Satanist. And I did not want to give the impression, and in fact, in my book, I combat the impression that, there's Satanists around every corner. As a very experienced and well-trained psychiatrist, I was aware that in the latter decades of the past century, there was a tremendous hysteria, again, another export from the United States, about people spying Satanists around every corner. We called it in America, and it was prominent enough as a phenomena, as a cultural phenomenon in America. We called it, in my field, the satanic panic. So, there were people claiming that, tens of thousands of kids were being kidnapped by Satanists and ritually murdered and stuff. Somebody estimated, a more sober analyst estimated, that there were far more accusations of such kidnappings by Satanists than there were actually missing children in the United States that particular time period. So there was clear exaggerations. There were innocent people persecuted for, supposed ritualism in this area. One has to guard against, the excesses of each side of our polarized cultural climate. But there also are a few, true Satanists around, and so, my unique position, I would say, a unique vantage point, has been to actually meet a few of these people. So I darn well know that they exist, and the woman I wrote about was a high priestess in a satanic cult. Then when it filters down, some of this occult preoccupation to the culture and the pop culture, there's always people who kind of, join the bandwagon. People like Alice Cooper and some of the rock bands, and I suspect that Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly have joined the bandwagon. Not to say that it is
interesting
not
enough.
Not to say that it's totally innocent.
Right. Well, I was going to mention a couple of things very quickly, if I may. That Alice Cooper, I was literally in preparation for today, I was rewatching a brief interview, like clip of an interview that he gave a few years ago, where he says in the interview, in describing both himself and Marilyn Manson, another sort of colorful shock rocker, that while he himself, Alice Cooper, self-identifies as Christian, which I was very surprised to hear. Marilyn Manson, of course, describes himself as being, the high priest of, some sort of satanic order. But so there is, to echo your point, there is no doubt this kind of shocking element to things to garner more.
I think you're right. I think Alice Cooper and some of these people evolve. Even Megan Fox has sort of devolved, perhaps, because she went through a period where she realized that her popularity was based on her physicality. And she went through, you might say, a more conservative period where she decried that and said, I've become much more traditional in my beliefs. Now she seems to, the slightly aging Megan Fox seems to have latched on to, this kind of exhibitionism that she had actually eschewed when she was younger, admittedly. The same with rock stars. I think Alex Cooper does regard himself as Christian, but it's hard to know how coherent people like him and Marilyn Manson, who is perhaps even a better example, how much they do for effect and how much they do on a serious level. But there are these rare people who not only exploit the public's fascination with that sort of thing, but also get involved in it in a more serious manner. And it's hard to sort out sometimes the depth of their belief, because whether they're doing it for publicity reasons or whether they actually seriously engage in occultism is sometimes a little hard to know. It's not like Satanists go around advertising themselves.
Right.
Some
right.
do.
Some
But
do,
many of the worst are much more clandestine.
Well, I wanted to pick up on a couple of other things. Also, going back to the discussion as to what extent was Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly's sort of thing just a publicity stunt? To what extent was it, some serious occult thing? We will never know, really, but truthfully, the answer to that question. However, something that you said is, to paraphrase, the kind of historically occult nature of such acts, almost ipso facto. I'm completely paraphrasing here, but please feel free to correct me as you see fit. Just engaging in certain acts has certain, from a metaphysical point of view, from the point of view of pure metaphysics, it has repercussions. Like one could say, right, from a traditionally Christian theological point of view, let's say, if one, it could perhaps be argued that one need not even necessarily, as it were, believe per se in the significance of the sacrament, shall we say, but just in partaking in the sacrament, there is a metaphysical thing that happens, and maybe that's the whole point of the religious life. It's over a period of time during the course of one's lifetime that one is progressively acculturated, disciplined into the tradition, as it were. And similarly, whether one believes or recognizes necessarily the deep metaphysical implications of drinking people's blood, whether one recognizes that or not, just the act has an impact. And blood is no small thing historically in all the traditions. There's, and we don't have to go on and on about this, but
no, but I couldn't agree with you more. And we're both students of history, and to some extent, I think we're both interested in comparative religion. And you see these type of ideas, sometimes even in major religions, but you certainly see it in the ubiquitous, paganism throughout history. There has traditionally been this preoccupation with blood, not only in, pagan cultures, some of which were pretty noble cultures. I'm not certainly disparaging all ancient, what we call now pagan values. But there was this underlying I would call it occultism, and a unconscious or unaware preoccupation with propitiating forces, beyond materialistic ones in the universe or metaphysically. And they clearly, they clearly felt that they were getting results. I mean, people don't do these things. Maybe Megan Fox does, I don't know. But, people don't normally do these things on a serious level without having a metaphysical scaffolding or rationale for what they're doing. And absolutely, pagan cultures and occultists more generally, even within, more mainstream cultures, religious cultures, definitely feel they get results. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. In fact, the Satanist woman that I wrote about in my book used to say, people are stupid if they do these things without expecting something in return, because she had been involved in some grisly stuff herself. And I know in America, and this probably goes in all countries, you have certain occult movements like Santeria and Santa Muerte, to name two sort of Hispanic-oriented occult movements that have more popularity in America than is healthy to contemplate even. And they're very preoccupied with things like, drinking blood, shedding blood in ritualistic ways. So what you're talking about, Hassan, has quite serious implications, whatever the level of superficiality of, celebrities who jump on that bandwagon.